like a memory that really stands out to me is being assigned to pick a monologue that was representing my own identity. And I remember just like trawling through the library downtown at Bopst. I was at NYU and pulling all the plays I could and just really finding nothing that spoke to my specific intersection of different identities, and also not being happy with the representation that did cover part of my identities. I was like, these roles don't really make me want to jump in a lot of the times. The vast majority of them are like, oh wow, am I really gonna be in this best friend track forever? And so I think that was when I first sort of had the inkling of starting to write material and sort of representing the world as I saw it.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Scene Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Borak, joined by my beautiful, wonderful, amazing producer and editor, KJ. KJ is not in the room with me, though, and I'm so alone, and I miss him so very much. But we must persist and get to one of my favorite episodes ever. I guess I say that about everything, but we only have bangers here on the Scene Podcast, guys. And I interviewed one of my favorite players in the world, Kaela Mei-Shing Garvin, an absolutely brilliant, talented, awesome person who I am so excited. The conversation was amazing. I'm so excited for you all to listen to it. Kayla's brilliant, and I just feel so lucky that I got to talk to them. And oh my gosh, I just want to get to the interview. Okay, let's just get to the friggin' interview, right? So here is me and Kaela Mei-Shing Garvin. Yeah. Today, I'm here with Kaela Mei-Shing Garvin, writer, performer, educator, and new work advocate. Garvin's plays explore themes of identity, culture, and community through experimental and genre-bending narratives. Their notable works include Tiger Beat, a coming-of-age piece about 2000s pop girl group, Corners Grove, a contemporary reimagining of Thornton Wilder's Our Town, and High School Coven, a dark comedy about teenage witches. Kaela has received 6 Kennedy Center Awards, insane, and his work develops from Breaking the Binary to the Alliance Theater and so many other theaters. Kaela is a new emerging voice in the field of playwriting with a catalog of plays that I simply adore. Thank you so much for joining me today. Kaela, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm great. Thank you.
Dude, I'm so pumped. I was saying it before we got on. You're like one of the first playwrights I like cold DM'd and was like, hey, I'm so excited to have you on. Which I will say, I think it's very risky doing it before the interview because I'm like, you could have reacted very poorly. So I'm glad you didn't.
No, such a pleasure. It made my day. It was such a great message to get.
Good. I'm glad because I think I like before I interview a playwright, I do like a bunch of research on them. And most of that is like, watching interviews and stuff. And with yours, I got lost in like first off, I love a playwright that uses and posts stuff on New Play Exchange. I read like your entire New Play Exchange catalog over the course of like 2 days. I just read like everything and then like sent things to people as I was going. And it was really, really good. And I haven't done that in a long time. So I was like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with this. And all of our listeners will know because I've only done this with one other player, but we're going to do a little mini game where I make you explain a bunch of plays that I love. And a lot of plays that I couldn't find, that like I literally like tried to find, and I read descriptions of them on the websites that you did like readings of them for or from your college, like deep dives that no one has the right to be doing. I did for a lot of your pieces.
No, thank you. I really appreciate a thorough researcher.
Good. No,
I'm very much research brained myself. So
okay, cool.
That's amazing.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. Okay, awesome.
You're out there doing the good work. I think that as a child, an event that I've been told about a lot is the first time that I saw the movie Wizard of Oz and saw Judy Garland's performance, and I was just obsessed with it. I was Dorothy for like 18
Halloweens. Yeah, 100%.
I had the whole thing memorized, and so it was kind of like faded from when I was a kid that I seemed like a theater kid from the get. Like I would do these performances with my family in the living room at major holidays that my family on the record did not like.
Did not want.
But I would enlist everybody to perform.
Oh, 100%.
One time where we'd put on this American Girl doll play. American Girl company used to sell these plays that you could do independently. Yes, and there was one about Felicity.
I know Felicity.
Yes, of course. Felicity going through her like lady training and having tea at Miss Mannerly's, and in that play she lost her tooth, and at the time my tooth was wiggly, and I rigged this whole thing so that I wouldn't lose my tooth until during the performance.
Oh my god.
It failed. I lost my tooth early, so my mother saved my tooth so we could have a real human tooth as a prop during this performance. So like I was always gonna be involved in the theater at some degree. But when I was applying to colleges, I kind of had this fork in the road because I also loved writing in English, and I could really see myself as an English major, and so, but I also loved theater, and so I kind of applied to just two really big theater colleges, and I said, you know, if I get in, great, I'll pursue that, and if not, I'll get my English degree and I'll, you know, work on that side of things. And I ended up getting in, and as I was going through my college career, I think like a memory that really stands out to me is being assigned to pick a monologue that was really based in representing my own identity. And I remember just like trawling through the library downtown at Bopst. I was at NYU, and pulling all the plays I could, and just really finding nothing that spoke to my specific intersection of different identities, and also not being happy with the representation that did cover part of my identities. I was like, these roles don't really make me want to jump in a lot of the time. Some of them are amazing, and the vast majority of them are like, oh wow, am I really gonna be in this best friend track forever? And so I think that was when I first sort of had the inkling of starting to write material and sort of representing the world as I saw it. And so I kept working on that through college, but I also was interested in writing and costume design and directing and all of these different aspects of theater. And so by the time I came out of theater, I was by and large not performing as much anymore, mostly because I still loved performing, but some of the aspects of performing, I found it really difficult to be like vulnerable as a performer every single day, especially like knowing that I wasn't always as in love with the material as I wanted to be. And so after college, I continued to work as a costume designer, a little bit as a just sort of general theater artist. I worked wardrobe at Blue Man Group, RIP.
Oh my gosh. I feel like, okay, this is crazy. I've been in New York for about a year now. I feel like I've met so many people who have said, I worked for a little bit at Blue Man Group. I feel like so many people who are in the theater industry now have like worked a stint at Blue Man Group. Oh,
absolutely. It's an institution, or it was an institution. I guess very much. It was a great place to work. They really took care of you, and it was a wonderful job. And as I continued working, I just found myself more and more drawn to writing, and playwriting as my primary source of interacting with theater as an art form. But I do still consider myself a multidisciplinary artist. I just, for the most part, have really gravitated towards creating my own work.
Yeah. Do you remember the first thing you wrote that you would claim a play, or like some piece of dialogue, and maybe the start of like you realizing like you wanted to be a playwright? Like, was it in college, or was it back in high school? Like, what was it? I
wrote a play in high school in a 24-hour play festival that I was really proud of. It's not great, and I didn't think at that point, I wasn't like, ooh, this is where I'm gonna head. You know, I think the first time I really felt like, oh, I could explore this was a playwriting class I took in college, and in particular the way one of my peers responded to the work and like the theatricality of the work. I was really like, oh, there might be something here that's worth pursuing. And I've always written. I've always been a journaler and written stories and written in different mediums, but that was sort of the first time I started started taking playwriting seriously.
Cool. Okay, sweet. And then another question I had that I don't think I've asked this on the podcast, but it's something that I get asked a lot. I just got on my master's program at WVU. What made you, after getting your undergraduate degree, decide to go into like further higher education? Because I know you got your MFA at Indiana, right?
I did, yes.
Cool.
I did my MFA at IU Bloomington. To be honest, I wish that I was clearer on my goals going into school. I kind of thought at the time I was kind of facing a lot of dead ends in my writing career, my theatrical writing career. I saw that my peers who were going to get their MFAs didn't see those same types of dead ends. I also have been sort of like a lifelong educator, teacher. I've been teaching kids and working in childcare since I was a kid myself. And so I was really interested in learning how to teach. But essentially at the time, I was just kind of like, I think I had at the time 5 jobs here in New York, and I was burnt out, and I was like, I want to focus on my craft. What will let me do that? And the MFA seemed the easiest path, weirdly enough.
To be able to do that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of your MFA, the first play I want to talk about as we dive into your catalog is Tiger Beat. This play focuses on the Girls Next Door, a 2003 pop group on the rise. It's a wonderful, hilarious, wild exploration of pop star fame, microaggressions in the industry, and 2000s pop music, and using meta-theatrical devices and even original pop music that you created. And if you go onto their MPX, you can find the Google Drive with the music that I have listened to multiple times and I love so much. This ended up being your thesis for your MFA as well. So I wanted to know, like, why this play? Like, first off, what is Tiger Beat? And then also, what made you want to kind of dive into the world of like 2000s pop music culture as an exploration for all of the things that you had worked with in this play for your thesis specifically?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think you did a great job sort of explaining what the play is. You know, we're following this 2003 pop girl group. One of the members is Asian American, is trying to figure out her place in the group at large and how she fits into the industry when she's sort of has all these demands being asked of her to present in this certain way, and sort of simultaneously sort of mask her racial identity, ethnic identity, while also being tokenized in this way. I think when I was writing the play, I wrote it very specifically to be my thesis play because I was trying to look at what resources were available at my MFA program. And we had an incredible musical theater program. And I love virtuosity on stage. Like, I love to see someone do what they're great at on stage, and I was like, we can make use of all these really talented musical theater artists. I love to see people sort of exploring as well design in this type of way, where I was also trying to think period wise about a time that would be fun design wise and like clear. Although I started writing the play in I think like 2018, 2019, and I got a lot of questions about like why 2003. It feels really recent, and now I feel like we've grown into this Y2K nostalgia.
I was gonna say it's kind of like a period piece at this point, which is wild. Yeah.
And I was, in terms of the period itself, I came of age during the time of the early 2000s, watching. I've always been a huge pop culture stan, pop music stan, pop girly stan, and so seeing these, thinking about the ways in which this could be a fruitful exploration for identity and artistry, but also thinking about sort of like the broader socio-political movements of the time, and like growing up in this time where we had a lot of really strong pop culture and pop music, like girls on the rise to fame, where we know now that they didn't necessarily have a lot of agency over their careers, and sort of set against the backdrop of the Iraq War starting. All of that stuff felt like it was really fruitful for exploration for this sort of inquiry into what does it mean to be an artist, how do we create, what is how do we show up as artists in a world that wants us to show up in a specific way? Yeah.
What went into the creation of all the music? Because I do love, again, it's on MPX, so go check it out. But I do love that you have the Google Drive and all these songs that you guys created for this pop group. Did you create that music all on your own? Or are you like also I guess, composer, or did you work with a composer at IU? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, so it did involve collaboration. So essentially, when I write music, I've written music for a number of my works, but I have a music background, but my theory is pretty shot. I took piano for 10 years and I can't remember anything. And so essentially what happens when I compose music is I usually start with lyrics and then I compose a melody to them. I'll usually then assign chords and create like a lead sheet type of arrangement, which then at IU, there were several different rounds of work on it. For some of it, I worked with my spouse, Cameron Toy, who's a musician and a producer in their own right. And so they made the very, very first demo tracks. And then we worked with a composer and musician, Grace Leckie, who is in the music school, who created a secondary demo track based off what Cameron and I had created. Yeah. And so those are the tracks that you hear on the Google Drive and that we've used. We use them in IU's performance at a workshop at Cornish College of the Arts in Seattle, and as well in the second stage reading that happened last year. We brought Grace back on board. Grace had moved here to New York, and so we collaborated after not seeing each other since the pandemic.
Oh, that's so kismet.
Yeah, this play opened, I think it was like we closed maybe March 10th, 2020.
Oh my
And so
God.
like the week later,
just under the wire.
Yeah, the week later the school was not coming back.
100%. Yeah. That's amazing. Wait, so so you do kind of create music though on, like, you were able to build up a lot of those songs on your own and then you're able to collaborate with a bunch of people to create that stuff.
Yeah, I'm really lucky that we had a lot of those collaborators sort of like built in. And,
that is so cool.
Really prolific music school at IU that I was able to work with.
This is not on my question sheet that I sent you, but now we're talking about music. I didn't realize you played piano for 10 years. And I guess, like, looking back, there are so many of the pieces that I've read of yours that, like, use some type of, like, original music within it. Is there a part of you that wants to write a musical, or do you feel like write a book of a musical, or, like, compose it all yourself? Like, I don't know. Is that something that you wanted to do or you want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I love musicals, and I think it's something that I'm coming back around to my love for, because I feel like I hit this period in my 20s when I was at theater school and at sort of a weird branch of our theater school, and musicals were not as cool. And now I'm coming back into, like, I don't care, like, I love a musical.
100%.
So I've written a couple of different works with music, and I would love to write like a real musical. And I've been talking to some folks about that, so hopefully sometime in the future I can write one that is sort of capital M musical. But I've worked on some shows with music in the past that don't quite like subscribe to like the American musical like structure. And I think that that's a really tough, weird gray area to be in, because I feel like we expect our musicals at this point to be structured in a certain way. And I was interested in subverting that. And, the structure exists for a reason, and it's fun to experiment around with, but it's tough to nail it,
100%. Yeah. And I think like a capital M musical is really fun, but also a lowercase m musical is something that is very, very cool, that I feel like is a fun way for like playwrights that want to experiment with the genre can live within.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I want to talk about this next play, which is maybe one of my favorite plays I've read in a very long time, High School Coven. I'm honestly, you can ask Leah and KJ. I love everyone's work that comes on. I'm like truly deeply obsessed with your catalog. It's like a problem. But another one of your plays, High School Coven, tells the story of a group of high school girls forming a coven to navigate their struggles. Everything from choosing the right homecoming dress to confronting the more serious issues of reporting a sexual assault within their school system. I want you to talk about the play, but also I think High School Coven is like the perfect example that highlights your brilliance in balancing both like this very relatable comedy and poignant issues, and like using comedy to explore that, but never like making it feel like, oh, this is like too funny of a moment for like the serious thing you're going for. You're really, really good at balancing that. So I was wondering, just from a playwriting perspective, do you go in kind of looking for how to play with that balance? and then also just the creation of this play. Where did it come from, and how's this journey been, I guess? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. That's so kind. And also, I feel like a really great summation of what I try and do, which is, I think especially with this play, I'm trying to make trauma funny for people who have experienced it and survived it. And I always kind of think like, you know, how can we make watching this kind for the person in the room who has gone through whatever we're talking about. And that's kind of how I approach humor within the work. I also think it's a play about teenage girls who are like the funniest people on the planet to me.
Oh,
and I think that sort of a play exploring the reality of what it's like to be a teenage girl has to be funny and also deeply scary, because I think that's what the experience is like. And so, as I was putting together the play, I think it's about for me trying to meet the situation where it is on an emotionally honest level, which for me has always involved humor and about how we can how we get through those types of hard situations, how we get through trauma a lot of the times involves that type of knowing when to laugh. And I think that that's something that I'm really interested in with the play. So I'm so happy to hear that it worked for you.
It's so wonderful and smart. And I just feel like, are there moments in like your writing process, especially for like a play like this, where you find yourself writing about like the climax of the scenes, or where you find yourself writing the climax of the scenes, or you find yourself really getting to dig deep within one scene in the issue that you're the thesis of your play, I guess, where you want to pull back on comedy, or like are you constantly looking for a way to put it in as like a source of levity, or like a source of like relatability, in the sense where so many of us, when we're going through a traumatic time, immediately try to go for the comedy, not just to like ease the room, but also ease ourselves in a way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it can be great medicine. And I think this play had a particularly interesting kind of process, because I was writing it with a writers group of just peers at the time.
Was it in graduate school?
No,
or
it was
after?
Pre-grad school.
Pre-grad school.
Fall 2016. And I was like, I want to write a really fun play that will just be like an easy breezy walkthrough of a play. And of course, you know, we hit November 2016 and I was like,
super easy month. Super easy, simple month no one struggled with.
No, it was a beautiful time to be alive. But I kind of got to that point, and I had built this play around these funny, silly, like,
oh, what a tough time to write up, to be like, I want to write an easy breezy play.
In a witch coven.
Yeah.
And then I was also like learning a lot about myself in the world at that time. Like,
I think, you know, I was certainly plugged into the world at that time and knew what was going on, but I also was like discovering things about my own self and my own past that were starting to come up in the writing of the play. And it became unavoidable around the time of the election that the play was about sexual assault, and it was about what agency survivors have. And so the play kind of took a left turn in that I was retroactively looking back at the earlier scenes and being like, how do we tool this to where the play's headed? I didn't know necessarily that I was writing this play the whole time, and so how do we retroactively refit some of these scenes to work with where we end up in the play? So I think that's some of the calibration that I was doing with this play. And I also got a chance, so I completed the draft that fall, and then that summer we had a festival production go up with Corkscrew Theater Festival downtown.
Oh, sweet,
And then I took it with me to grad school, and while I was at grad school, I got the chance to do a workshop production with some of the students at IU. And it was a really amazing experience where I got to go back into the script with a little bit of distance and kind of see what was working and retool some of the moments given the festival production that we had. And something that I love about the play is that every time I have been adjacent to its production or workshop or something, like a coven really does form. Like the cast, you know, there's all of these relationships that build because of this play that I just think is really beautiful. So I feel very lucky that has been sort of an occurrence that goes down every time we do this play, is there's a new coven.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, it's all, and I like that. There's also, remind me and correct me if I'm wrong, there's some magical elements in the play.
Yeah.
Is there I've I've been able to see, like I just saw Stranger Things on Broadway, and I've seen like Harry Potter, obviously, and all that stuff. Is there something, personally, like as a playwright myself, whenever there's like, I'm writing something and there's like some type of magical element, I'm like almost scared to write it because I'm like, I don't know how this works. What was it like writing things that like specifically like were pertaining to like witchcraft, magical, like that this is going to be something that might be different in every production, but it is asking to create something magical on the stage? Is that like scary to write? Is it something that you're picturing in your head very specifically while you're writing it? How did that go?
I think for me, there's a lot of different ways that it can be interpreted, and I wanted to leave it up for collaboration and creation on the other end of things. But I was very firm that we need magic in this play. Yeah. I have, as a theater educator, I have a bone to pick with Aristotle for putting spectacle last on his list of dramatic elements. and I always talk to my students about how important spectacle is, and that it is not only something that can be everything that Aristotle was describing as far as like disconnected from the actual play, but when you do that work of connecting it to sort of the body of the play and to what the characters are trying to do, specifically in this instance where the characters, these teen girls, are just striving for and grabbing at agency wherever they can get it, especially from the occult, which I think is actually quite a common experience. I think it's really helpful that those things feed each other, and that the magic does create this sense of the otherworldly in the play. And I think it can be done really simply, and that's something that I always look at Kushner's foreword to Angels in America, where he writes that it's maybe good if the wires show. I think that there's something really beautiful in sort of not hiding the elements of theatricality, and things can be done. I think a lot of people get scared by impossible stage directions, but I think it's the most beautiful obstruction, where you are forced with the task of creating something impossible and beautiful with whatever you got, and it doesn't have to be it shouldn't be $1 million.
It gives an opportunity to a production to make it their own a little bit and be creative.
I just love to see flying on stage, so that's like my favorite thing is like flying on stage, like little magical stagecraft moments. I just think that's that's live theater. That's what we want. That's what we're here for.
I really think it's also like the dream. There's like a couple like cool theatrical devices that every playwright dreams of, like writing in a play and then seeing it on the stage, and one of them has to be flying. Like right now, like this person flies out of frame, and then going to a production of your show and seeing them go, like it's the best. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Okay, I want to talk about the last play. I want to talk to you about like in depth thoroughly. Great. Is truly one of the best like contemporary adaptations of a classic that I've ever read, Corner's Grove. So good. I'm gassing you up so much, and I'm sorry if I'm making you uncomfortable, but it's just so good. But it's a contemporary reimagining of Thornton Wilder's Our Town, set in a fictional Bay Area community. Can you just talk a little bit about the journey of this play, what it's been on, and especially this journey of the play and how it's ended up now officially as of us recording this very recently? We were looking at the sample copy earlier in the DPS, the Dramatist Play Service catalog. Like it's going to be, is this your first play in licensing, or is this?
Yeah, first solo play license.
That's so exciting. Yeah.
Thrilling.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
So I want to know, where did this play begin? What has the process of it been? And how does it feel like, what was the process of like learning that's going to get licensed? Did you do any changes to the text, or was there any like differences that you're making, or are you looking at it with a new eye, I guess? But yeah, start at the beginning.
Well, to go way back, in 2005, I was in my high school's production of Our
Town. Yep.
And I remember reading the play at 15 and crying my eyes out. I love Thornton Wilder. I love Our Town. And as I've gotten to know his work over the years.
Did you see the most recent revival?
I didn't get to see it.
It was wonderful. It was so good. I saw it 3 times. I got to sit on the stage twice. Yeah, they had little stages. They had little spoiler for Our Town. And actually, these are a lot of high school educators. We're gonna say this, and they're gonna be like, "I should do Our Town," because that's where it's done so much. Yeah. But I guess spoiler for Kenny Leon's revival. That's closed. But if you sat on the stage, they didn't tell you. But in the third act, they pulled up the barrier that was between like you and the actors, and you were the graveyard. You were dead.
Dead.
It was so cool.
Dead.
I was sitting there the first time, and it shocked me. And then I brought my partner the next time, and when they brought it up, and I was like, I'm dead. And it was so awesome. It was the coolest thing ever. And everyone else, like a lot of like other people, because it's really cool. All of the rush tickets that they had were in the graveyard on stage, but also the most expensive tickets were in the graveyard. So like I would go up there with like rich, fancy people, and they would all be like, "What's happening?" And I'd be like, "We're dead. You got to act a little. Oh, you're dead." It's my favorite thing in the world.
Oh my God.
But all that to be said, I also love Our Town, and the revival was amazing. But please continue. Your production was probably even better in high school.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then very notably, there was one night where a fire alarm went off partway through Act 3, and it's a heavy act. We're all dead, and so we had to start the act over because of the fire alarm. And our stage manager was the literal actor playing the stage manager was so pissed. So I was introduced to Thornton Wilder's work at that age, and I over the years it has really stayed with me. I've read a lot of his letters, I've read a lot of his novels and other plays, and I just think that he's a great figure in American literature. But in 2012, I was asked to write a 20-minute play that was going to go up at the Access Theater near Canal Street by a theater company at the time that was full of my peers, Boxwide Productions. So I wrote this 20-minute sort of silly little adaptation of Our Town about sort of me and my friends, just fooling around and doing stuff. And after the production had gone up at the Access, I was encouraged by the theater company to create a full-length play from that work. And so I created that over some years. There were readings, there were, development workshops, and it was all really, really scrappy, low budge at that point. We were all just like in our early mid-20s, like trying to make it work. In 2015, we had a festival production at Tom Noonan's Paradise Factory with a cast, again, that was mostly my friends and close collaborators, and we had such a wonderful time. I have such a fond memory of that time, and we were also like messy theater artists at that time, and just was throwing stuff at the wall, trying to make things work. And so I was very fond of the play and the production, but after it went up, I was sitting with the self-production of it all and all the money that we had raised to play the various actors, and was told that it's not a super viable play for professional production. It's a huge cast. It's lots of locations, although like we take our cues from Wilder, and we don't have proper set for most of the play. And so as the years passed, it was done by a number of high schools and colleges that I was really excited about, and would follow the productions when they came up. I then got the chance to workshop the work or to do a full college production that I was directing in 2022, just a few years ago.
Okay, cool.
So that was the 10-year anniversary of me writing the first 20-minute draft. Wow, it was such a wild experience to return to myself like a decade later and kind of see where the work was at and where it sat a decade later. And I think certainly the world had shifted a lot, and specifically within the play, like the queer politics had shifted in the decade that had passed. And so during that time, I did a lot of rewrites with the cast who was at Cornish College of the Arts, where I was teaching at the time. And it was a really, really wonderful experience. It felt like some kind of full circle homecoming moment to get to revisit the play 10 years later and try and shape it according to where I saw us now. While still trying to honoring my original intentions. It was kind of an interesting tightrope to walk. But I felt really good about what we were able to accomplish there. And then I had heard through my agent, Farah, at UTA, that you were looking to license it with Broadway licensing. And that was such a wild email to get, because this was a play that I wrote to me like when I was a whole nother person when I was a kid. And it was the second full-length play I ever wrote. It's a play I have so much love for, and to have it be published now is just this incredible honor. It feels really beautiful, actually, to be able to, and for it to be this play, which is really based in my love for my hometown and my peers and my communities and the Bay Area and Thornton Wilder. Like, it just feels really amazing.
Yeah, and I think specifically for this podcast, because we have so many high school educators listening, I want you to talk a little bit about why you think this play fits so well in a high school season, because I personally think it does incredibly. The cast size and with the content and with just your style of writing, I think it so brilliantly will sit within schools that are willing to take it on. What do you,
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think it's great for schools. Particularly, it has a large cast size, and we're following this cast of young people from when they're in high school into when they're in their early teen years. So age-wise, it's a nice match.
Yeah.
I purposefully, when I was returning to the script in 2022, was trying to take a look at some of the characters, too, that didn't have as much stage time, because when I was directing a cast of my own students, I wanted them each to have a moment to shine. So I approached the rewrites in 2022 with that goal of everyone's going to get their little moment to shine on stage, in the same way that I think Wilder does so beautifully with Our Towns, is that there's a moment for each of the characters, and I think that the play really sort of reckons with what Wilder's play was trying to do about, like, how do we live. How do we live, love, and die in this world? And I think that's always a perma-relevant question. And I just sort of brought my perspective to my, the era of growing up in the aughts and early 2010s.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then the last thing I want to ask about it is, so you do this production at Cornish, and you are kind of like going on this really long journey with this piece, and you get reached out to for licensing. Did you look at the script in any different way before kind of like finishing the edit and like getting like the copy that like we're looking at today? Like, were there anything that you wanted to add on or take away or anything like that before it went into this like licensing sphere where that now like so many high schools, colleges, community theaters, professional theaters are now able to go and like produce this through a like incredibly famous catalog like BPS. I feel like as a playwright, so many people dream of getting their play with those like 5 lines going up.
Oh my
gosh,
what I mean? No, it was a dream come true, and that's the copy that I had of Our Town growing up too. Was like the actors edition. I think for me, when I was coming back to the script, I was trying this time around, when we're moving into publication, to hold myself back. I know that I'm a playwright who really can get into it with rewrites, and so I was trying to look at things a little bit more objectively this time around, as sort of more on a copy edit level than a total rework level, because I feel like I gave that a good go with 2022's round of edits. But what I was looking at in that instance was really like, for me, again, a lot of it was about sort of the changing of the queer politic and like what feels. I think the original draft that I had done in 2015 gave a really realistic look into what queerphobia looked like at that time. And in coming back to it in 2022, one of the things that I was looking at was that some of this stuff doesn't feel good to put on stage anymore. Especially knowing too that it's going to be a lot of the time students who are doing the work. And so I was really trying to find that balance of faithfully representing what it was like to walk through the world as a queer person in the late aughts, early teens, but also to have that be a kind experience to those students who are doing those roles
today.
And I think a lot about Susan Laurie Park's writing and her writing that putting something on stage, especially if it's historical, is enacting the event in some ways, and that. I just wanted to have a lot of care around those aspects of the play, because it does center around a character who I think in today's language would be non-binary, but kind of has this gender journey throughout the play. When I wrote the play in 2015, a lot of the cast and I now identify as non-binary, but we didn't have that word in our vocab in 2015. And so trying to sort of stay true to that evolving sense of identity while being kind to the actors and characters on stage was something that I was taking a look at as I was diving back into this play after a while, because I think it's important that we take care of the people who are going to be in our plays, especially if they're students, but that also we're faithful to the reality of what things were like in the past.
Well, I think it's a brilliant play.
Thank you.
I think that every high school in the world has produced Our Town. And if you have no excuse not to produce Cornish Grove. I think it's like a brilliant, like, package it in your season. Do Our Town in the fall and Cornish Grove in the spring.
Oh my gosh.
Let's please.
That would be so fun.
That would be so fun. That's sweet. Oh God. Okay. So we've been talking for so long. Thank you so much for talking to me. There are so many more plays I wanted to talk about. I did this once, another time this season with James Imes, where there's so much in his catalog I couldn't get to. So I forced him to play a mini game where I said a bunch of plays that he's written and I made him talk about them for like a minute or less. I'm going to do that to you as well.
Amazing. Anytime I can follow James Imes in a game.
It's literally just the two of you. So I'm glad you're game to do it.
Oh,
okay,
absolutely.
sweet. So I'm going to name a bunch of plays that I've either like read and obsessed with on your MPX, or like I've been able to find the description of and done a bunch of research but couldn't find the script to it that I really want to know all about it. So yeah, okay, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, perfect. Let's do this. Okay, ping pong play.
Ping Pong Play is a play about two ping pong players who meet while playing competitively. It follows them non-chronologically through their lives from the time they're like 10 years old to the time they're in their 90s. And it was really inspired by me taking a look at a lot of the like women and non-binary people in my life and how platonic friendships really last from cradle to grave. And that how a lot of times those are the relationships that really sustain us and shape our lives. And that play is sort of a reflection and meditation on those ideas, and also live sports.
The issue with this game is I want to keep talking about the plays, but I'm not going to do it. Okay, Harpers Ferry 2019.
Harpers Ferry 2019 is a play that is set in 2019 at Harpers Ferry National Park, following this group of 3 park rangers as they're sort of trying to litigate how to tell the history of John Brown's raid, while also sort of being in 2019 Trump era and dealing with the atrocities that are happening on the daily and trying to reckon with how do we take action, what role does violence have in our activism.
Yeah. Do this in X of Me. This is one I couldn't find, but I love the description of it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. This is a play about memory loss, especially in our elder community. It has the structure of a Catholic mass, and it's sort of based on my experiences of seeing my grandmother go through memory loss and trying to parse what it's like inside the situation, because I think there's a lot of plays in media about memory loss from a caretaker's point of view, but I just love her so much, and I was so interested in like, what is it like for you? You know, like I know what it's like for all of us, but
the person after losing that memory. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. Sense in the City.
Sense in the City explores 2 romantic comedy trope genres of like 90s rom-com movie and Jane Austen rom-com, smashing them together. We're also taking a look at like interracial romance in New York, also Sex in the City.
Yeah, also this kind of goes hand in hand. Pride and Prejudice adaptation.
It is a Pride and Prejudice adaptation. Absolutely. It's pretty faithful. I love Austen, but it's also fun and a little theatrical, and gets done at colleges and universities, and I just think Austen's such a great source for adapting material, and I love her. Yeah, I was going to ask, is there a Jane Austen piece that you want to adapt that you haven't yet? Oh, I really want to adapt Northanger Abbey. Okay, that's not one that's adapted a lot. Yeah, it's because it's kind of weird. I think it would be fun, and I love all of them. Persuasion, absolutely. Okay, sweet. Oh, I'm already getting off track. Okay, House of Mirth. I watched a 45-minute interview of you talking about this, and I read it. Yeah, from your college days. Oh my gosh, that must have been wow. House of Mirth, HAUS, is a adaptation of Edith Wharton's novel The House of Mirth. She also has she adapted it herself with a playwright at the turn of the 20th century. But it's a sci-fi futuristic adaptation where the conceit is that white women have taken over the world, and there are no men in society, and so things are stratified socially, class-wise, along racial and ethnic lines rather than on gender lines, and sort of takes a look at Wharton's classic tale of haves and have-nots, and what it takes to make it in the upper social echelons through a racial lens rather than a gender-based lens. All women running around on a spaceship. It's fun. Okay, awesome. And then the last one we're going to talk about is something that, this is the first piece of yours that I ever read. You wrote a monologue called You Know That Feeling, an overheard 14th Commission monologue written by ENB2F plus Artist 4.
TNB2S plus artist. I think this is for the Breaking the Binary
Yeah, absolutely.
group. Yeah, okay, sweet, yeah.
Yeah, I was so thrilled. I was asked to participate in the first year of Breaking the Binary, and I've worked with them since. I really, really admired the curatorial and producerial work that George Stress, who runs it, does. And so this is a monologue. We were given a prompt to write a monologue that was essentially overheard, and we got to create the monologues and then develop them with the actor and director, and it was a wonderful experience. Can't recommend Breaking the Binary and their work highly enough.
And also that is a piece that's in one of DPS's catalog, like overheard. And I remember reading that before I even knew I read that like a year ago or 2 years ago or something. I remember like reading through it because I talk all about like monologue books with on my like social medias and give people like monologue ideas. I remember reading this monologue and loving it so much, and the whole book of monologues is so wonderful, overheard. But yeah, your piece is just so good. There are still pieces that like I want to talk about. Oh my God, I just love your work so much. Seriously, I end every episode by asking the playwright, the person we have on, if they're working on anything, and know that I am deeply invested in whatever you say. I am so excited. So yeah, are you working on anything right now, or are there any ideas or adaptations that you want to touch on or anything like that you're thinking about?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm working on a bunch of stuff. I'm finishing up some commissions. One's a commission for EST Sloan. The title is Torque Bitch, and it's a play about science, a group of high schoolers doing a science project in 2006. So always exploring my path.
You love that era. Love that era.
That's when I came of age, and I think that we see playwrights throughout history always writing about about the time they came of age. I also am have been working for a long time on a queer Christmassy, holiday-y rom-com that's all full of, queer Asian American characters, called Tanaka Tree Farm, and it's sort of taking the structure of a Hallmark holiday rom-com and throwing it on stage and messing with it and queering it. I think that's a project that I'm really excited about, and I think in general I am drawn to both creating my own original work alongside adaptations, especially as an educator teaching theater history and going through the last couple millennia of theatrical work. The one constant about playwrights is that they are always, sometimes ethically, sometimes not, stealing from each other. Yeah, and totally. I think that that kind of intergenerational and like across histories exploration of material, I think, is always so fascinating. So yeah, I'm always looking for things that I can deconstruct and queer and figure out what my own take on it is. But yeah.
Do you know what your next adaptation would be if you were going to write one? Is it the Jane Austen piece, or is it?
I do have a mini draft of the Northanger Abbey on my computer, but I haven't touched it in a while. Yeah, I would love to do that, or I would love to adapt another Wharton. Like, I am interested in taking a look at, the women writers from history who don't always get the sort of flashy adaptations of their male peers, and like giving them a little shine.
Yeah. That's amazing, dude. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
It was awesome. And that's our show. Wow, guys, look at all the friends we made along the way. What a great episode. What a wonderful episode that I did. Oh, pat on the back for me. Thank you so much to Kaela. You're brilliant and amazing, guys. Go check out all of Kaela's work. There's a bunch everywhere. Go check out their website. Just go support and produce all of it because it's wonderful and brilliant, and I love it very much. Thank you to the entire team over at The Scene. We could not do the show without you, so oh my gosh, thank you, absolutely. And yeah, that's the show. I am so absolutely ecstatic that you guys listened to it, and I can't wait to show you the next one. So I guess I'll end the episode the way I end every episode, which I'm going to say the thing that every scared actor says at the end of a scene study when they just did something from like
the wrong time period, and they realized it halfway through because everyone was doing Shakespeare and they prepared a Chekhov, and they just went for it. They just still did the scene from the seagull, and that was it. But and scene. Okay, we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.